The trade deadline is less than a month away. Yes, time is flying by. And today I thought we'd talk about one player on every single NBA team that will be traded before the trade deadline. Welcome back to Wigs NBA. If you enjoy content like this, please be sure to subscribe so you do not miss out on any future uploads. Now let's get started. For the Memphis Grizzlies, I don't know what management in Memphis is doing, but at least they've realized this team they built doesn't work. It all started with the firing of Taylor Jenkins for legit no reason, and the team took a nosedive in a season where they didn't even have a first-round pick. Wizards fan, by the way, so thank you. Anyway, on the bright side, they understand the roster they built isn't working, and it's time to sell high. And Ja Morant is certainly on his way out. The issue is with Morant is he's shown even at his young age to be really injury prone, and that's really attributed to his explosiveness. And I think he will settle that down if he can work on his shot a little bit more. I still see him as a positive asset, but seeing what Trae Young went for, unfortunately, it may not be much. The market has been set, and it does not look good. The Houston Rockets are really good at shooting, but they have no point guard, and they really need some help. And I think they should go out and get one. I think Jabari Smith, unfortunately, will be the odd man out here in Houston. He's really just not shown to be what you expected out of a number 3 pick. And there are other teams out there that can make use of him. And he certainly yields you a suitable primary ball handler and floor general, which should plug up a big hole in their offense. And I think that'll help them move forward. For the Spurs, Jeremy Sohan is almost certainly on his way out. He just doesn't play much anymore, and it's a big disappointment because he's actually a really solid defender. But with the emergence of Luke Cornett, who's kind of taken his role, he hasn't been able to reestablish as a solid down-low defender when Wemby isn't available. He's a guy that any contending team would love to have. He just needs to have a fresh start because just like last season, he was also incredibly impactful as well. Anthony Davis is almost a guarantee at this point. Good news is about an hour ago before I'm recording this, he did get a second opinion from a specialist and he won't be out for the year due to ligament damage in his hand. So he will have some value on the market, and I could definitely see the Mavs with their new front office just doing a proper rebuild. Cooper Flagg is the guy. They really should slowly let him and the team improve together, and that also means trading Kyrie. That'll be a harder one to do, and I think Anthony Davis will be the first one on the way out. For the Pelicans, I got a quick one for you. Zion Williamson has never looked and played healthier in his entire career. If you don't trade him now, you're delusional. He's going to get hurt, and we all know it. Case in point, you won't get this type of trade value from Zion the rest of his career, probably, and it's time to pull the trigger and move forward. The Golden State Warriors are almost certainly trading Jonathan Kuminga. He can't even get on the court right now, and at the end of the day, he clearly just does not fit in the Golden State system they've played now for 10 to 12 years. There are young teams in the league that I think will take a big chance on Jonathan Kuminga. It's just a matter of who and what that's going to yield the Warriors in return, but it's almost certain that he's going to be on the way out within the next month. Dalton Knecht is still one of the better shooters in the league, and it surprises me that JJ Redick just seems to not like him, even though he is literally JJ Redick 2.0. I'm sure there's some sort of mental stake in this with the trade that didn't go through for Knecht, but that was so long ago, he's got to move forward. I think he's definitely still someone who can impact winning with great shooting off the bench, but the Lakers have abandoned using him in meaningful minutes. I think he's due for a fresh start in a lower pressure environment. For the Sacramento Kings, I got another quick one for you. Trade all the players, trade the coaching staff, trade the front office, trade the ownership, trade the arena, trade the city, trade it all. Kings fans deserve better than the mismanagement that's been going on for 20 years. For the Clippers, can we free Chris Paul? Chris Paul, for whatever reason, you sent him home, but you didn't take him off your roster. You didn't cut him. Let him play somewhere else to finish out his career. It's quite selfish and disrespectful to Chris when he has most likely going to be ending his career. Don't force him to just sit at home. Let him play out his last year. Carmelo Anthony did get a comeback on the Blazers after people said his career was maybe over, so maybe he goes for one more year, but it's definitely not going to be at all a good situation if Chris does not get to play his final year. For the Suns, tough call, but I'm going to go with Mark Williams. Mark Williams is just not durable enough for a long NBA season, but he's shown an incredible increase of his value with how healthy he's been, but also how well he's been playing. That's something the Suns can capitalize on almost for certain. Maybe they can flip him for if it's a Zubats type guy. You might have to attach picks to it, but that might be something you got to go with, as he might also be available. For the Thunder, I'm going to shock some of you guys, but the answer is Jalen Williams. Simple as this, sell high. He's struggling, and so is the team ever since he come back. Things were working better without him earlier this year, and sometimes that's just how things go when other players emerge. Someone would pay Sam Presti multiple first-rounders, and he will have a guy to replace him for 10-plus years off of one of these picks almost certainly. I think you sell high, and you still go win the championship so long as you don't run into the Spurs. For the Nuggets, Christian Brown has been a great loyal player for the Nuggets, but they paid him too much. I think Peyton Watson, with how he's been playing as of late, will end up having to walk in free agency because they just can't afford him. With some of the stuff that he's been doing without Jokic, it's absolutely insane. You need to make sure Watson is the guy you keep. But with Brown's contract, they don't have the money to do so, and thus I think it's time to trade Christian Brown. Don't let this be another James Harden and OKC situation. This kid could legit be a star, and he will be given some pretty crazy contracts, but he is a restricted free agent. So keep your money available and re-sign him. But you can't do it unless you free up some salary. The Timberwolves are actually on fire right now. And usually as the season goes on, that starts. But Julius Randle just really seems like a guy who will give you his usual 20 points a night, and that's it. He also has really fallen off defensively, and maybe the Wolves can turn him into another shooter, which is what they really need at the moment. That's what I'd do. Look, I've argued with Blazers fans about this, and I'm going to hold firm. And you are welcome to argue with me in the comments if you want, but Scoot Henderson is a bust. But it's not too late to get something out of him. Some GMs may still believe in him. But Denny has emerged, Shaedon Sharpe has emerged, and Scoot no longer even fits. But also won't be able to develop if you think he still has something in his game because of all the touches that go around to other guys first. It'd be smart for the Blazers to trade him when they still can get some sort of value off of him, and for Scoot himself, he will be able to revive his career on somewhere we can get more minutes. The Jazz started off hot this year, but they've fallen into full-on tank mode as soon as they realized they didn't have what it takes this year. Lauri Markkanen has also all of a sudden had his best ever season. So maybe it's time to trade him instead of sitting him out to tank on purpose. If they don't, they're actively ignoring some serious assets they could get their hands on to further enhance their own rebuild as well. The Miami Heat are in their usual 8th to 10th place in the Eastern Conference, and as much as I argue with Heat fans that every major star isn't going to end up there, they don't see reason, and neither does Pat Riley. I think what they're going to do is make a deal to once again get more depth, and unfortunately I do think that does include Bam Adebayo, who has really struggled this year. This move also lets Kello Ware step up as a lead big man role for them, which in my opinion he is ready for and may excel at. Now, for the Wizards and Hawks, they already made their first trade of the year, but I will mention one for each of them, but both are not going to be worth much. For the Hawks, almost certainly it'll be Kristaps Porzingis. I read last year he was diagnosed with some sort of heart condition, and it seems like, unfortunately, that slowed him down. I also hear he's dealing with some actual injuries at the current moment, which is good, so maybe he's starting to work through that, but he also is just becoming injury-prone, as he kind of has been down the stretch of his career. I don't know, other than maybe another player who can't stay on the court, aka Anthony Davis, what you can even get for Kristaps Porzingis, but he certainly isn't working out in Atlanta so far, and Onyeka Okongwu is having a fantastic season, his best ever, and honestly, I think that role belongs to him. He can do much better than Porzingis can anyway. For the Wizards, it's going to be Chris Middleton. I know it doesn't make sense with his salary and the fact that he's hitting free agency this offseason, but they just turned CJ McCollum into Trae Young, so why on earth would you ever think this isn't possible? You just can't. Market's been set. There's a new era in Charlotte, and Con Knipple is your guy. And LaMelo Ball's time is over. I think a team that needs a true floor general, or maybe even a tanking team like the Kings, would definitely take on LaMelo's contract. Biggest concern with him is the injuries, so maybe you can limit his minutes a bit and see what his role looks like. But so far this season, he's done a great job keeping his ankles together, so I'm sure the Hornets are hoping for the best. But I think they're ready to move forward with the new face of the franchise, and I think Con Knipple's absolutely that guy. And wrapping up the Southeast Division, we have the Orlando Magic, and I think it's time to move on from Wendell Carter. The Magic lack a lot of interior physicality, and with Carter, he doesn't really do one thing incredibly well. He's average on offense, he's an average rebounder, he's a below-average shot blocker for his size, and I can see them shopping him to try to make an upgrade in the center position this year. And I think that'll be kind of a missing piece once Paolo continues to start getting back into rhythm. You get Franz back and healthy, and the two of them work together. You get a solid center inside, a better defender. There you go. There's a possibility there. For the Cavaliers, I'm going to go Evan Mobley. I could have put either Darius Garland or Evan Mobley here, but I think Garland still fits the Cavs system better than Mobley, who just, in my opinion, really doesn't look good right now. And if they can get a good yield for him and replace someone in his position that does some of the same things, the Cavs can turn around their already very disappointing season, because we know they have the talent and the coaching, they just don't have rhythm right now. I saw something today that mentioned the Cavs have already tied their total losses from last year, and they've only played 41 games. Shout out Jay Huff. He went from G League to serviceable player really fast, and Rick Carlisle, being a great coach, is utilizing him incredibly well. The Pacers very likely are going to draft someone with some size, or spend some money this summer with the salary they lost when Miles Turner left. With a healthy Halliburton available to go back to competing for a championship, and Jay Huff is a perfect sell high guy. You may get yourself a first-round pick or a serviceable role player on contract to help out next year. I think it's a great fit for the Pacers. For the Bulls, this one's obvious. Nikola Vucevic. Father Time is undefeated, and he's made his way over to you this season. The Bulls aren't going to get much out of him, but maybe they can finally get their hands on straight and rebuild around Bazelis, who looks incredibly promising. But they need to free up more touches, and getting rid of Vooch is the best course of action for right now. The Bucks probably need to trade everyone not named Giannis, but we all know that won't happen. The best asset the team has that could actually yield them some help for Giannis is probably Miles Turner, but he's been so disappointing and clearly a really bad signing to let Dame go over this poor production you're getting from a player who you thought would be really good, and Giannis is playing what feels like 1-on-5 every night anyway. But he just isn't being aggressive, isn't as good defensively, and it may take some time to do some damage control before it gets worse. And I think you've got to do that damage control right now. For the Pistons, Jaden Ivey, man. Jaden Ivey's a guy who I thought was a future star. Between injury history and his team flying through coaches every year, Ivey has hardly been able to play since the team finally got some stability a year ago. And now, no longer has a role where he can even be that second option guy. He definitely has all the talent in the world, especially on offense, and teams out there will trade the Pistons good shooters, which they need, in exchange for Ivey. I think it's a no-brainer, and it's a really good deal the Pistons should make. I've said this before, but it's time to sell high on Joel Embiid before he gets hurt again. He's healthy, he's playing well, he's literally untradeable the next time he gets hurt. Make the move. Someone is desperate enough, he proved he can be healthy, Maxey is the better player, free up some depth, get your younger players involved more, move towards the future. That's what you have to do. Get Paul George and Joel Embiid both on this team, but I think Embiid's the one you got to get off faster because of his injury, his injury history, that is. You got to get it now because the second he gets hurt, no one's going to give you anything for him. For the Nets, easy one here. MPJ has never had higher value, and he won't be able to keep it up because he's had his own injury history that speaks for itself. So it's definitely not something you sit on. You got to make a deal happen as soon as possible. If the second anybody offers you a first-round pick for MPJ, you take it. For the Raptors, RJ Barrett is who I have here, honestly. Barrett's a good scorer, but he doesn't do any one thing super impressively. And the Raptors need to unleash Scotty Barnes a bit more. He's taking a backseat in scoring to Brandon Ingram and RJ Barrett. And I think just like how Maxey really took off when the Sixers gave up James Harden, I think Barnes will go off when the Raptors drop Barrett. Addition by subtraction, they call it. For the Celtics, tough one here because you add Tatum to this team and they really are special. But I'm going to go with Sam Hauser. He's probably one of the worst starting players in the league, and maybe they try to get an upgrade out of him, but honestly, I wouldn't touch this team at all if I were in charge, and I think Brad Stevens isn't either. And last but not least, the New York Knicks. Gershon Yabusele has been really disappointing, and while it'll be hard to trade him, you got to find a way. Your bench depth, while better this year, is still really weak, and they need to free up the money to build it back up properly before the playoffs. It'll probably cost another first-round pick just to ship him out, but there should be some solid players available on the buyout market after this is complete. Free up the roster space, free up the money, make it happen. And that is one player for every single team that I think will be dealt before the trade deadline. Thank you guys again for watching Wigs Gaming. Wigs NBA, that is. I will let you guys know whenever another video is coming out soon, or just hit the subscribe button and you won't miss out on anything. I'll see you guys for another video soon.